Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to KOT Kia Threes. Right now, it's just the two of us, me and my guy Steph. How's it going?
Doing good, bro. Doing good. How you living? How you living? How you? What's today? Tuesday? Yeah. How you Tuesday, man?
It's pretty good. You know what they say? The club's always going up on a Tuesday. No, I'm just kidding. But we're gonna get into a lot today. We got some other members showing up later on in the stream. Don't you worry. So you have to stay tuned for that. But with yesterday being the first day that a lot of these guys are now trade eligible, you see the title of the stream right here. 82 guys are now eligible for trade. That's probably like what 25% of the league. So it really opens a lot of doors there. Now, yeah, people could have been traded and picks and stuff, but now we have a whole new field of guys. And so there's a bunch of dudes on here. You see James Harden in the thumbnail. You see Julius Randle in the thumbnail. Just to name a couple others. I know we both have a list in front of us, but there's like Miles Turner, Dennis Schroeder, Nicholas Batum, Gershon Yabusele, Kyrie Irving's another one, D'Angelo Russell. So I guess like just when you're looking at this list, what are maybe some of those guys that you're like, I think they could be traded, or maybe someone that you hope is traded?
Um, usually I like to start with my team, but I'm not gonna do that this time. I'm not gonna do this time mainly because there are a few teams that I think should be seller/buyers at the same time. And one of those teams is the Minnesota Timberwolves. You know, for me, there are a few pieces that they can move to shift and kind of change with their role players, but it'll be tough. Um, I in the beginning of the season, I would have said Randall, but seeing his uptick in production as a facilitator, not turning the ball over as much, being able to score the ball efficiently, I think him and Ant, their pairing could go really well. So I think it's that time to really be like, all right, what can we do with Gobert? How can we move him? How can we move and shift? Because I think that time with him is done. So, package him with Ingles as a contract match type of thing, maybe Nashawn Highland. I would try to keep him, but Terrence Shannon Jr., something like that, so you could get some role players, rotation guys back in return that can actually be serviceable. Now, who would you get is the real question in that. Because some of the guys that we know are trade eligible have already been there, like a guy like Nickeil Alexander Walker, like can't really trade for him. So who would they go for? And, for me, I think they could do good. And then this is if the Pistons are selling. And no, never mind, because they already have a big. I didn't even think about that part because Rudy would
Who
be
were you
traded
gonna?
for. I was
Oh,
gonna
Rudy.
say, yeah, but I was gonna say, the Timberwolves try to get Karis LeVert. Um,
That could be interesting.
give the Pistons another guy that actually let me pull up their roster real quick to see who they could be able to trade. But give the Pistons a guy that's more serviceable and able to actually, put ball in basket, secondary ball handler kind of guy, while the Timberwolves also get a guy that, okay, we could shift the way we play. We could shift and try to, get back into that contender conversation. Because right now I think they're in the middle ground.
Yeah. And speaking of middle ground, we're gonna have a middle piece now with this triangle. Our boy Jelson, Gel Pepper, has arrived. How's it going?
It's going good. Just got done getting some food, ready to be back on stream. Talk some
Yes,
hoops.
sir. It's been
Hey,
a
we're
minute.
talking about their team, so
Are
Yeah,
we
it's a
we
good
okay?
were
time.
we were just talking about your team. Before I get into what I was gonna say, we were just talking about potentially Detroit Pistons, Minnesota Timberwolves. We're talking about. I think you were talking Karis LeVert action. Um, what would you think about a fit like that, Karis LeVert on your Timberwolves?
I know he's been playing better. Like, I mean, like, what did we think about Karis LeVert? I mean, not too long ago. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just
Fair.
don't, I just don't like. I understand why you would go and get Karis LeVert to an extent, but I just don't think it's what we need. I just don't. I don't think that it's if you're going to be targeting somebody for as like a Timberwolves team right now, I wouldn't be going the Karis LeVert route. Like there's places I would rather push than getting Karis LeVert. Could I see like, okay, maybe as a secondary, tertiary move if we decided that we wanted to bolster the bench, whatever, then I could see it. But if we're talking like first move, coming up on the deadline, guys that are now able to be traded for, I just don't think that he's necessarily the guy that I would want to go for.
What about this, Jelson? Because I'm thinking about this Timberwolves Pistons pairing, because there's a few other players as well that are eligible. Bones Highland is one of them, and I know this isn't one of the players that's newly eligible, but I mean, Steph was even talking about some other guys who could be moved now by way of that, like a Rudy Gobert potentially. But I'm looking at maybe Bones Highland, maybe it's Rob Dillingham. Just seems like the Timberwolves have not really found that security at the point guard spot. And this one even solved that issue. But I think if you're making a deal with Detroit, one of the other things that the Minnesota could have is another enforcer. And another guy who's eligible now is one of my favorites who played for the Chicago Bulls, Javonte Green.
I like
what would you like about I don't know, man. That could be interesting. I feel like the pairing of him and Anthony Edwards would be must-see TV. Every night on the floor, that would be high energy, high stakes.
No, once again, I like the move. I think I like that move more than I feel for Karis LeVert. Obviously, they bring different things to the table as basketball players. I don't think I would move Rob for him though. And that's like, obviously Rob hasn't shown much, and I don't know what his value is. Obviously, I'm not a GM, so I don't know what people are like. Okay, like Rob is worth this. Like he could be in this package and get who? Like I would say like, oh, if we want to go get a Kobe White, for example, like as there's been rumors of, I think that's a guy I would trade Rob for. Like I'd trade Rob and some other additional assets for Kobe White, right? For if we're going like, okay, Karis LeVert, JaMychal Green, I wouldn't put Rob in there. Bones has kind of solidified himself as the backup point guard for this team past couple of games. He's just
his
played
low still, right?
On average, yes. Like I would say, like he sees average. Like he doesn't play as many minutes as Rob, for example, but he's kind of solidified the backup role the past couple of games because Anthony Edwards was like kind of pushing Finch, like, yo, okay, like we got to put Bones in the game. Like he has game. Like he can bring what we need, especially from the point guard position. Like. Obviously, we know Bones is a guy that has played on other championship contending teams, and it has been kind of known as just like a shot chucker almost. But honestly, I think the way that Bones has been playing is rather interesting, and because he can score. We know Bones can score. That's never been a doubt, right? It's like Cam Thomas. We know the guy can score the ball. But Bones has been showing something that I don't think we really have ever seen out of him, and that is that he has the ability to play make. He has the ability to make the correct pass. Is he like a Chris Paul or a Mike Conley in their primes? No. Did we expect him to be that? No. I mean, he's end of the rotation type of guy coming into the season. He wasn't even on a contract, I don't think, coming into the season. He might have been on I don't know. He might have been on a two-way, I think. But either way, coming into the season, he wasn't, or going like coming out of last season as well. Like he wasn't a kind of guy you expected to play real minutes, and the fact that he has been able to play real minutes past couple of games has been a nice surprise. Do I count on him to be like a guy that's like, okay, well, Rob is playing well the past 3 games, so now we're not going to trade for Kobe White. Now we're not going to go look for an upgrade like Darius Garland. No, like I don't think that's what that is the kind of player he is. But I would say that I wouldn't just give away Bones now he's playing well for a guy that, albeit could be an addition, isn't an addition that would be extremely necessary for the team we are right now.
Well, I think it would be. I mean, it's not like the biggest addition. I do think you guys need another guy like that. And my perspective, Rob Dillingham might have more potential. Bones Highland as well. These guys are younger than Javonte Green. But I think for the fit of Minnesota, you guys have a lot of veteran level players that it would make sense to have a guy like that who can be that hustle player, the one that's diving on the floor, as opposed to these other guys who maybe like they're getting some playing time, but they're not like getting consistent run. I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like y'all are kind of past the upside guys. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
That's the only reason why I'm kind of like, okay, maybe it's time to pivot, try to figure out, all right, how can we turn that corner and keep that not keep, but open that championship window back up. You know what I'm saying? And I think Ant and everyone else is ready for guys like Javonte Green, like Garrett's talking about.
And
Right.
Chris Finch as well. Like, I mean, you got to think of it from that perspective. Like, we've seen him already a couple years. It's not working, at least like with the dynamic of these two young guards, mostly Rob Dillingham. But like, one of them could probably go out the door to bring in another enforcer, I would say.
I would say definitely, like, point blank, like, I would move one of them.
Yeah, that's
What
what
is
I'm
it?
saying. I'm not saying move both of them or anything.
Right. I would say I would
Yeah.
probably move Rob just because he's gonna have more value than Bones, in my opinion, just because of age, where he was drafted, stuff like that.
You might be able to get it straight up too. I mean, I said a pick just because I value Javonte Green so much as well. Like, I think he is that ultimate role player, but you might be able to get it straight up, which I think would be still a win.
No, I absolutely agree with that, but once again, I go back to the point of, and I agree with what Steph was saying, where it's like you're kind of past the point of betting on upside guys. It's just one of those things where it doesn't make sense to me to move an asset that could be used for a different thing that could be more valuable. Like, if you could get Javonte Green for Rob straight up, does it make sense? Yes. But to me, if that stops you from getting Darius Garland, then I wouldn't do it. But if Darius Garland's not on the table, and if Kobe White's not on the table, and we're just like, either make a move, like go get Javonte Green or keep Rob, then go get Green. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would say that I agree that you could use another guy that's going to be a hustle player, but he's not that top need where everybody's been saying this. I mean, we talked about this like on, I think, every stream I've been on. And there's been multiple reports like the Timberwolves like strictly are focusing on getting a point guard. To me, if I am a fan and I'm like, we don't go get a point guard and we pick up Javonte Green, I would seriously question the leadership in our franchise, because we don't need Javonte Green. Like, you could say, okay, that's a need, like one of like the needs, and like if you're making a list of what do the Timberwolves need, like top 3, top 4 things they need. But it's like such a glaring number one need that it's like, if you are like, if you just end up completely ignoring the point guard position, to me, it's just like, it's a total misstep by the franchise.
For sure.
I think too, like, you want to get a point guard that's not like, you don't want to get someone who's so below in a minor upgrade that you're going to invest in. Like, not to throw shade or whatever, but okay, let's just say, for instance, you guys wouldn't do this because he already played for the team, but like a player like D'Angelo Russell at point guard,
Agreed.
like, sure, maybe he's a little bit better offensively, but I don't really see how that really changes the team, just because, okay, maybe you get a little bit of a better scorer, but I don't know. The other thing, and we can talk a little bit more about Minnesota, but I wanted to ask about this because the team that has the most players that are eligible now, 10 players on their team, is the Bucks. And of course, none of those players in itself is Giannis. One of them is his brother, actually, though. But like, with all those guys potentially available, you look at the Bucks right now, sitting around that 10 or 11 seed. Giannis dealing with an injury, and I'm just looking at like the Bucks, and it seems like things have just been going downhill. Does this deadline maybe open a door for a trade to either bring in an asset to help out Giannis? Because it seems like that's what they're hoping more towards. And you've already seen like some rumors of, I think like even James Harden was another one that maybe they could make a move for him or something. Or is it just opening the door where it's like they could just clean house altogether? Because me personally, I think that this team is not going to win a championship. I don't like, they would have to pull off Rob Pelinka on Nico Harrison heist for this to actually work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think they can do it. I'm just not expecting it. So for me personally, I would think this could be an opportune time to get your best deal for Giannis. But they also could go in this direction as well. And if they do that, I think maybe they, assert themselves somewhere in the playoff picture in a year where the East is pretty wide open. They could make a deep run. So I'm just curious what you guys think about that.
It completely depends on where the Bucks go. Do they feel like, okay, we can make a move? If they don't feel like they can make a move, you have to sell. At that point, you just have to sell because Giannis has already come out. He's already we know where he's at. He's been stewing for the better half of a year and a half, 2 years anyway. We've been on this kind of ticking time bomb kind of thing, hot seat, whatever you want to call it. With that said, if you're gonna make trades, are you gonna do it with the teams of the likes of the Timberwolves, or are you gonna do it with the teams that have the assets for you to be able to build later on? You know what I'm saying? Because as the team trading for Giannis, I don't know if that's the best idea to trade for him. You know what I'm saying? Especially, you know, what is he, 32, 33 a year? I think
he's 30. I think he's gonna be 31. He's still like, I think he's a 94 birthday and he's born in December.
Which if I'm not mistaken, my whole point in saying that is I think he's a year younger than what AD was when he was traded to the Lakers or whatever. And while that can be good for your team, we also know what Giannis's play style is. And are you gonna get the better half of those last couple years for Giannis, or is it better off to just wait it out, get him on more of a bargain deal in terms of free agency, or you know, get a trade when the Bucks are that relationship has absolutely strained? Because I don't know if shifting your entire roster to, or not entire roster, but shifting assets to get him is worthwhile. And I don't think history has really dictated that it's worthwhile, really. Like, yeah, Anthony Davis got a ring, and that's one of the ones we've seen. But like, for the most part, when we see trades like this, it doesn't usually come to shape, come to form. We saw it with Dame. We've seen it with Harden, KD multiple times.
The last time before that one even mentioned was probably when the Celtics went in on Garnett. Like everything else is really like, it didn't really work out. I mean, you could say like, I guess like the Raptors for Kawhi, but that wasn't like a huge haul. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And that was just,
like,
we're getting you out of here. You don't want to be here.
Yeah.
You're tired of it. We're tired of you. We're going to get you somewhere. So much so that everyone knew that the Raptors rented him for a year. So like, it was kind of one of those things where whoever got Kawhi that year, if the same thing happened to the Warriors, they were pretty much winning the chip. But
and Fred VanVleet just said that the other day too. He's like, yeah, he had his mind made up. Yeah.
Well, see, there it goes. And that's like we're saying, history it shows us that this isn't the move. I would try to cherry pick the guys off of that roster, you know, break them down piece by piece, you know, try to get a Kevin Porter Jr. I like either him, or if they're, because I think Ryan Rollins just got signed. If he can be traded, I would like one of those two in a Minnesota jersey. That would be nice, in my opinion. Maybe not Kevin Porter, but Ryan Rollins, I like him a lot.
Right. I like Ryan. I mean, it goes without saying, I feel like everybody in the NBA right now is kind of obsessed with Ryan Rollins and what he's doing. Obviously, Kevin Porter Jr. would not love him just because of other stuff with him, but as a ball player, I mean, we're just talking hoops. Obviously, he's a good basketball player. Like, there's a reason he's NBA. There's a reason he's a rotational player, right? But so everybody seems to be talking about Giannis, and as you mentioned, Steph, I'm glad you mentioned just like kind of picking and choosing different pieces that this Bucks team has to offer, and if they're going to be like, hey, Giannis, maybe it's worse than we know right now behind the scenes with Giannis. If we're like, okay, well, we're gonna keep this behind closed doors. The front office and Giannis are gonna have that mutual respect where we're not gonna go, you know, on Twitter going crazy about it, but we're gonna be like, okay, you know, let's focus on next year. Let's, you know, try and get you moved in the off season, whatever the case may be. And if they're willing to move pieces, in that case, this like coming up on the trade deadline, if I'm a team like Boston, Miles Turner. It makes way too much sense to me. You move Anthony Simons, a pick, some other assets. You try and go get Miles Turner. Obviously, that's only if if Milwaukee is trying to move off of these pieces, because I don't think necessarily they would just move their new acquisition like this if they felt like they had a real opportunity to win something in the next 2 or 3 seasons. But if they don't feel like that, then to me, Boston makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you don't love to trade within the conference, but
shoot, 25 mil.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna be real though, Jelson. I don't know if I like that for Boston.
I just don't. I
Elaborate.
don't.
And I mostly say that just because we know Boston is one of the teams that plays around the perimeter oriented, and they're taking a lot of threes. Miles Turner, yes, he can hit the 3-point shot, but that play style, which I think the Pacers adapted a lot of last year, is part of the reason why he lost in crucial playoff games and why they couldn't finish the job. And also, I'm looking at him as well, where he is at one point, he was a pretty good shot blocker, rim protector, you could even say. I don't think he is that as much anymore. It's not like he's like some traffic cone or anything, but I don't think he's nearly what he was on that end either. And so that's two of the things that they're going to be relying on him for is taking smart shots. If you're giving him like way too much of a green light to take any three, I don't trust Miles Turner in those scenarios. Yes, he can hit threes, but I think like in what's the word I'm looking for?
Moderation.
In moderation. Thank you.
Right.
That's a lot better. I don't know if I like him having, because look at Boston right now. Like they don't really have a whole lot of bigs. They're trying like the whole Neemias Queta thing and Luka Garza and all these guys, Hugo Gonzalez. You know what I mean? So it's like there's definitely an opening for that big spot. I feel like if he came there, he would probably be the guy, but I feel like in a way that might not fully adapt with the way they want to play in the way they're hoping to play.
I think actually what's interesting is I almost view it for those reasons, I almost view it the complete opposite way. As you said, he's maybe not as good of a rim protector as he once was, but if any team at full strength is going to bring out his potential to be a rim protector, it's the Boston Celtics. And just because of the perimeter defense, when you have JB, when you have Derek White, when you have a healthy JT, these guys are going to help hit Miles Turner's job a lot. And on top of that, they are a team that likes to take a lot of threes. Right now, they don't have a center other than Luka Garza, who is like really capable of stepping out and taking the three ball even in moderation. And as a Timberwolves fan, I've seen Luka Garza play. That man can't defend to save his life. I mean, he is concrete in his shoes. Bro moves like me on the basketball court. Okay, so like it does not look pretty.
Give him a little more credit. Come on, man.
I'm crying. How do you feel about Boston instead of going the Miles Turner direction? How about we call the Heat, give him Anthony Simons, and we get Kelly Ware?
Do you think? I guess.
I don't know if the Heat would do that. I mean,
right.
that would be an ideal scenario. I like that fit better, but you would definitely just have to give up more.
It's just, of course, you'd have to give up more, but that would be me banking on the fact that Miami is more sold on Bam, and they're like, we still want to stay with you. Now, if not, of course, that probably won't work out. But I would try to make that call. I'm not gonna lie, especially because he's on his second year and he has 2 club options the next 2 years before he's a restricted free agent. So now you have a guy who he's not tapping your books like you were with other people.
I think it's interesting. It's a good point, but I would say I don't love the timeline of Kelly Ware compared to the rest of the team. And that's not. And I like the idea of Kelly Ware as a player and what he can be. Maybe one day, especially next to the guys that he could be playing with in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
But when is he gonna be that player, if ever, that you are like, okay, this is our starting caliber center that is consistently that guy on a night-to-night basis if we need to dump it down low? I mean, we've seen it early in the season with Kelly Ware that he struggles around the basket at times. And if you're a team that's trying to win championships, like Boston, when they're healthy, you can't really bank on a second-year player that's missing around the basket consistently to be your starting caliber center. I would obviously, all of us here on the panel, I'm pretty sure, would agree that we trust a Kelly Ware more than a Luka Garza at this point. But
Neemias Queta or whatever the
right.
freak his name is.
The thing is with Queta, right, exactly. I think Queta, obviously, there's a reason he's been the starting center. He's has the most upside. Like he's bringing, I love his physicality and I love how he can get how he's able to find a way to get offensive rebounds even in situations where it looks like it's secured for the defense. And but here's the thing. That's all nice and everything, but he shouldn't be a starting caliber center once JT's back. You know what I'm saying? They look like they're going to probably be a playoff team this year, and Jason Tatum should be back for the playoffs. Are we going to go into the playoffs with Jason Tatum coming back? You still have an opportunity to make a run, and we have Kata as our starting center.
Well, and my thing is too, like, here's the other part of it is that the Celtics definitely lost a lot defensively over the last like year and some change because Drew Holiday went out the door and Al Horford went out the door. You know, really when Porzingis was healthy, he was playing pretty good defense, but then last year he had like all sorts of injuries. So I'm also, like you mentioned, like Derek White and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are going to hold down like the fort really for, you know, if they brought in a Miles Turner. But I mean, those are just a couple of guys. You also still are going to have Peyton Pritchard. You're going to have Anthony Simons probably out there. I mean, Pritchard's a solid defender, I would say, for his size, but at the end of the day, he is a shorter guard. So he is going to probably get mismatches a lot. And I'm also saying this because Jason Tatum coming off the Achilles injury, one thing that we've seen with a lot of players when they do is defensively, they're not quite the same. You know what I mean? And whether that's like a constant thing or not, I know he's maybe younger than a lot of guys who have had it, but it's hard for me to think that coming back, he's going to be on the fringe of all defensive level player because that's really what he was. And if he's a step below that, well, he's not probably going to be holding up his own to a degree that can protect Miles Turner's like diminished defensive value, if that makes sense.
For sure. No,
I
that
agree
makes,
with that.
that makes sense. Who do y'all think?
That's well. Oh, and I was just gonna say, just for that reason, I think they should go for a more defensive-oriented center that could be a 3-and-D. But go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna ask about another player because you know they're talking about. I mean, if y'all are done, y'all don't have nothing else or anything.
I
Yeah,
just had,
you can.
well, I
go
just
ahead.
have one quick thing. Actually, because this is something that me and my friend were talking about, just discussing like the landscape of the NBA. 3-and-D bigs aren't like good. Like, I mean, 3-and-D big has been a thing over the past couple of years that people always talk about. But like, guys, truly championship solid 3-and-D big is so difficult to come by at this point in the NBA.
Well,
And
The premium.
that's where I'm like, while I understand the gripe about Miles Turner and maybe with injuries to JT and him coming back, is he going to be able to hold his own as well as he could have, or as he could maybe next year or prior to the surgery? My thing is look at our options, and if we're like looking, if Boston is like, we need to make a move now, the only guy that makes sense to me truly is Miles Turner.
I think a better fit, maybe even for that, because this is someone who I don't think he would shoot the ball as much. It definitely wouldn't shoot as many threes, but he can still score on any given night. And I think a guy maybe like, yeah, you would have to still get another defender in there, but I think he can hold his own on that end. But Bobby Portis could be interesting, especially if they break down the Bucks one by one, if you were saying earlier, Steph. So that could be a guy maybe that, you know, goes out the door, goes to Boston, and they make a move in that regard. But
He fits
yeah,
that.
I don't know.
culture. That fan base would love that man.
I do think he fits the culture a little bit better too than that, but
Yeah,
I don't
for
know.
sure. Yeah, because what did Miles Turner do? That man said it was the corniest shit I've ever seen. You know?
Yeah.
But nah, what the guy I was gonna ask you guys about, because Boston, at this point, I don't know if what they're gonna do. But I was gonna ask you guys about two guys actually, Trae Young and Lauri Markkanen, because those are two guys that I've heard about a lot. We've heard about Lauri Markkanen pretty much every year, it seems like. But with Trae Young, you know, there's been talk with, oh, they're better without him. Of course, a 20-10 guy is not an easy guy to come by. But do you think there's, I guess, one, a true market for him? And two, do you think a team would be giving up way too much to get a guy like that? Because I don't see a team getting him and they're like, all right, we're ready to win. No, you need a couple more pieces.
I think that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, do you care if I quickly just say something about Lauri Markkanen?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Because they kind
No,
of
I do care.
yeah, they kind of fall into that same category of players where it's like, if you're gonna trade for them, they're not gonna be your number one option on a true championship team.
Mhm.
I have viewed Lauri Markkanen's contract as just untradeable, in my opinion. Like, I think he is like obviously a very good basketball player, a guy that will contribute to winning basketball if he was on the right team. but he is making so much money that for his talent, right? If he in Utah, it makes so much sense. Pay a guy like that, pay a guy that's going to sell tickets. It makes a ton of sense. But if we're like, okay, we're paying him to move him, and if that was a thought process, when he got paid, it's so bad. Like it's.
I didn't realize he's the first year of his deal. Oh my God, my bad.
Like,
Go ahead.
No, I should say, no true team, as I said, that is looking to become a championship contender or a current championship contender looking to bolster their roster with a second option can afford him. Like
Yeah.
he was making so much money, and maybe a team that is not, maybe a team that has a whole bunch of young guys that is looking to maybe compete in the next couple of years could be like, okay, maybe we can move for him. But even then, I'm like,
What's the point?
yeah, what's the point? Because he's not going to be our one option.
Yeah.
I think the best team for that potentially right now, and it still would be risky, would probably be a team like Detroit. And you'd have to probably include someone like Tobias Harris to do it, which it's like, yeah, you would have an upgrade. Like, definitely, he's a better player. But also, Tobias Harris is one of the guys who plays the most, and he's a veteran for that team. So it's like that to me like screams Danny Granger 2014 trade for Evan Turner. If you guys remember the Pacers were so high, they looked like they were going to beat the Heat maybe that year. Then they made that trade for Evan Turner where Granger was hurt anyways, and even though Evan Turner had a good year, did not click at all. And at that point, even too, David West said, I knew right then and there we weren't winning the championship, even though they had the best record in the league at that point. So you don't want to like screw something up like that to the point where, yeah, Tobias might not be as good as Markkanen, but he might be better for that culture, especially a more defensive-oriented culture that Lauri Markkanen is not super great on. He's amazing on the offensive end, almost a 50, 40, 90 guy on any given season if he's given the ball. So, but you also, like, his touches will go down. And then, it's going to be weird adjusting to probably having the third most touches on that team because he's not touching it more than Cade, and Cade runs a lot of pick-and-roll action with Duren. So you're probably going to get, like, the third most shot attempts on that team.
Yeah. I just it's so weird because with the second apron, like, I mean, you told me 5 or 10 years ago that we're talking about a guy that we said is a 50, 40, 90 guy. And we're like, yeah, he's making a max contract, but he's untradeable. Like, he's 50, 40, 90. He's an all-star. He's a guy that probably could make an all NBA team if he's given real touches on a solid team. But that's just where we are in the NBA right now, right? I mean, we can't as a team like Utah, where you knew, I mean, obviously, hopefully you're like, okay, we want to build around Lauri, whatever. You should probably know, though, that if it doesn't work out, us giving him a max contract isn't going to be exactly tradable. And that's where honestly, that's where they screwed up.
What
The
if
guy who might be an all-star too?
Right.
I don't want to shift too much. I mean, it's still trade combo, but what if the Spurs were like after that game against OKC was like, you know what, we're right there, and I like what our young guys can give us. Let's trade Fox, attach a little bit to it, and get Giannis to pair with Wemby. Giannis could play that, No, because Wemby's on the ball too much, and I like Wemby with the ball too much. Never mind.
But call me crazy with that. It's so interesting. That's actually a great take, though. I do agree that I'd rather have Wemby on the ball than giving it up to Giannis every other possession or whatever. But I also have another gripe with it is, obviously, Wemby's so tall that we don't know what the injuries are going to happen down the line. And, like, obviously, you never want to see a guy get injured, especially a guy like him where he's so talented.
Mm-hmm.
But as we also just talked about, Giannis is entering his 30s here. We don't know what type of player we're going to get with him. We don't know if he's going to be as dominant, let's say 3 years down the road. And obviously, once again, if he himself doesn't get injured, I'm sure he'll be dominant 3 years down the road. Maybe not quite as what we've seen, but like still, he's another guy where he's in a different sense, he could have his own injury risk. Now we're running a double big here where we're like, okay, both these guys on any given night could have their own injury issue. And what did we give up for Giannis?
But if it goes right, though, at the same time, like, It goes right. That's a championship window for 4, 5, 6 years.
I
Right.
hear what both you guys are saying, and I feel like for me, because I feel like Giannis is not going to end his career on the Bucks, just the way that things are going. I think eventually he will find himself on another team, whether that's this year or in a couple years, and that would be such an ideal scenario. That would feel just like Tim Duncan, David Robinson 2.0 in the sense of like
Mhm.
David Robinson was in his prime. You know, he had maybe an injury, and then he came back like around 30, 31, and Tim Duncan came in year one and they were just dominant for years. So I'm looking
Man.
at this, but the other thing,
And they got Carter Bryant.
yeah,
So he can keep going. My
and
bad. That's
and your boy Stefan Castle too, of course. But
Mhm.
also, like my thing is just what Jelson said too. You know, they play each other like maybe twice a year because they're in different conferences. But if they're playing like 60, 65 games a year together and they're both crashing the boards for 30 to 32 minutes a game, I'm not liking the odds of them both staying healthy. You know what I mean? I'm not liking the odds of that. It might be a little bit too concerning.
Right. Well, and obviously it's a much bigger thing with Wemby because now he has the blood clot situation, which obviously the doctor said shouldn't be an issue later on. But you never know. And especially with, how we saw Chris Bosh's career come to a
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
Obviously, you hope that doesn't happen. But then if you're the Spurs and you're like, if we've made this big move now, maybe you look at it like, hey, if Wemby has another blood clot issue, Giannis is going to keep us in contention.
Yeah.
So
But see,
I don't know.
I'm always so like I hear you with that. I'm not a huge fan of those moments because it's like, man, you're always just like waiting for the one guy, and that's the one thing. Like, yeah, I can't hate Kawhi for it. It sucks when it's like he's
Mhm.
not out there on the floor sometimes, and the Clippers, not this year obviously, but in previous years had played so good, and then it's like, man, if Kawhi was out there, they'd be even better. This year, don't even get me started. But in the last 5 or 6 years, like that's been the case, and it's like they played so well. So that's like my only other thing. It's like, man, the Spurs are winning 50, 52, 54 games, and Wemby's missing all this time. So it's like, yeah,
Or vice
and then
versa.
yeah, or vice versa. It could be. And I think that's the issue too. Like the Pelicans have run into, and they're just hoping for like Zion to have consistent health, and it just never comes. You know, right now he is too, but I feel like they're so past like where they were at one point with so many of their young guys that now they're just like kind of just holding on, hoping for like one last sliver of hope, and they're not gonna get it.
You know, that also brings up eh, the positioning as a front office, like a mentality, right? Would you rather have these two players, right, where you're like, okay, if we can get them both healthy, this team can win a championship. But for whatever reason, if one of them's injured for most of the year, as a front office, would you rather be in the situation where you're like, if we can get them both together, we can win a championship, or would you rather kind of put most of your chips into one guy and be like, he can lead us to the championship. If he's out, then maybe we can, fall down the standings, get a top 5 pick, maybe get another guy we can pair along this guy the next year. It's a mentality thing to me, and it's like if you want to bolster your team long term, I think logistically you bank on one player, like putting in the chips in and say, hey, if he gets injured, then we'll let this team kind of coast and see where we are, rather than having one guy be like, okay, we're good enough to be a playoff team, but we're going to lose in the first round.
I
I
think to
think.
that.
Oh,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. You're good. You're
I
good.
was gonna I was gonna say I think the Cavs are in that same situation that you just
Mhm.
described because like yeah, Donovan Mitchell's been playing, but oh, Jared Allen's in, then he's out with the finger, and then he's back, and then Evan Mobley's out, and Darius Garland with the toe, and guys like Max Strus, Sam Merrill, like all these dudes have been in and out like the whole year. It feels like Lonzo on a minutes restriction, and you saw this team last year, like they had a 64-18 record, second best in the league, and for most of the year they were the best record in the league, and then they lose in the playoffs, albeit some failures, in some of those games against the Pacers. But you could also say, hey, Darius Garland wasn't fully healthy, and like just some of these guys weren't 100%. That you're like, do you still ride it out for another year this year when the East especially opens up with Tatum out and Halliburton out, or do you decide to make a move? And I think right now with where they're in the standings, they've still had some guys in and out, but also it's like, do we maybe pull a trigger to get some additional help and maybe get off of Garland, as you were saying, or off of Jared Allen to try and bolster the team a little bit, because right now they're in 8th. So I think that's kind of just the same thing, like the question you were asking. Like the answer would be probably the Cavaliers, and that's why like it's just like hard to navigate around that probably, especially like so soon in it happening, like which is what we've seen. They've only got like 20 or so games under this, like post their playoff loss.
I don't. It's a game of chance, really, because like while you're dead on with the Cavs, I think the opposite example of that is like the 76ers. You know, their main guy went down, lost a bunch of games, but they drafted well. They got very good assets, and you know, we're still able to see a semblance of Embiid from night to night. We just saw him the other night show vintage Embiid, damn near scoring 40 if he did not get 40. We see PG playing a lot better, but you know, as we see that, we're seeing those younger guys coming into their own. This is still Tyrese Maxey's team. VJ Edgecombe is on the way, and you know, the multitude of guys Jared McCain, those guys and stuff of that nature. I think it's a matter of do you believe in your development? Do you believe in your, you know, scouting, your roster building and things of that nature? Because if you do, then at that point, okay, we can make this move. Because the original conversation was Giannis and Wemby. If they get hurt, it's okay. We get those younger guys that we already have now on the ball more, but we can also likely get better picks that we wouldn't have got before if both of them were here. Now we're able to just bolster the roster so much that those two don't have to do so much in the next coming years to where they're getting hurt, you know? And I trust the Spurs. The Spurs historically have been one of the absolute best at that. And even continuing now, of course, they've had some higher lottery picks and things of that nature, but they like I said earlier, they have a guy like Carter Bryant, where that's a guy where if Giannis comes, as soon as Giannis is done, Carter Bryant fits that mold very well. Obviously, he might not be as strong, as explosive, but he fits that archetype pretty well, and his upside shooting wise is a bit better than what Giannis's was at that point. So I think if you decide to pull the trigger, I don't think it's a bad idea for them. You just have to make sure you have your ducks in a row for plan B, C, and D in case they got hurt.
Yeah. I mean, I think actually this is a really good point, because it kind of plays off of what you had mentioned earlier, where it's like historically we've seen that making the big splash, like obviously you can make bigger splash moves, but the big splash move has not always paid off. To me, and I feel like a lot of other people, we all really appreciate homegrown teams, right? Guys that were drafted by the teams, you know, developed by the teams, played minutes increasingly for these teams, and grew together as a team. And that historically has shown that if you can develop, if you can draft, and if you can home grow a team with just, you know, maybe trading for pieces around the edges, you are much more likely to win a championship than you are to make the big splash trade. And that's honestly where I'm at here, and I kind of agree, is that if you, especially with the Spurs, if you trust your development staff and if you trust your front office as a whole, if your big name player does go down, then hey, maybe we can get that extra piece that we can home grow to make that secondary star, that tertiary star for our guy Wemby, you know. And I think that's the much better approach historically. I find that people that try to compete, or teams that try to compete while their star is injured, tend to be not as successful historically. Like, I mean, down the road, and that's even past the point of that player coming back, because there was never that there was the glaring opportunity to make your team better in the future, and you didn't take it for the chance to win something that historically you're not going to win.
Well, and one other thing I want to say, because we were talking, or you guys were both talking about the big splash move, and you know, I know we talked, I think, slightly about Randall at the beginning, but the other person we had in the thumbnail was James Harden, and the Clippers look like a dumpster right now. And the team that's, you know, he's pointed to on there is the Rockets, who are a pretty good team right now. They just have 7 guys who are now eligible to be traded. Granted, some of these guys haven't really played at all this year, like Van Vliet or, Finney Smith. I know Jeff Green is really not much of a guy, like probably the guys who played the most on this team that are eligible now are Aaron Holiday and Clint Capella. And I guess Josh Okogie, but I feel like played a lot some games and then just not a lot other games. So, I mean, if I'm the Rockets looking at James Harden, I'm doing the same thing that you guys said. I'm not doing the big splash move. That might be a hot take because they do not have such a point guard. And this is going to be funny because I know we talked about this earlier in the season. I think Reed Shepherd has really been playing well. And I think he's been playing well enough that you don't need to do it right now. I know the Rockets have lost some tough games they lost the first one to OKC, played really hard on that one. And then they also lost 2 close games to Denver. This might be their toughest competition throughout the whole year. And we're in December and they're already showing signs that like, hey, we can hold our own with the best of the best. So, and Reed Shepherd coming into his own a little bit more, getting a little bit more consistent. And I think really the Durant and Şengün dynamic is really starting to find its groove too. I think in the first couple games, it's like, well, Şengün is definitely the best player on the team and Durant needs to take a back seat. Like, no, now they're playing like perfectly off each other, it feels like. So if I'm the Rockets, I'm holding pat. I'm not making a move for Harden, even though I think there are some Rockets fans who maybe want it to happen under the right package because, well, one, James Harden is the most exciting player they've had probably since at least 2010. And 2, like, it might just give them a little bit more star power that could help in the playoffs. But of course, we know that James Harden has had some down moments in the playoffs as well that I don't know how well it would go. That's just my take, but what do you guys think about that?
I absolutely love that you said that because I've been high on Reed Shepherd from the jump. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I made a video on Reed Shepherd and I thought I was gonna have to like private it because he was playing like butt the first like 5-6 games or whatever. But I was like, you know what? Yeah, I was exactly. We gotta stick it out, see what comes of it. And I think he has shown that he's gonna continue to develop to where you don't need to make that move. You don't need to figure out a point guard. A lot of people were trying to say that very early. And to your point, Kevin Durant trusts all of these guys. I see it when I watch them. The other night when I'm watching them play Detroit, the way he's giving the ball to Amin and telling him to go get a bucket. Stop looking at me. Go get a bucket. Stop trying to pass to me. Go get a bucket. Says the same thing to Alpi. There was a game. I think this was late November, but Reed Shepherd played pretty well against Denver, played pretty well against Golden State. These are 2 teams in the West that they're always going to play tough. Denver's a contender. The Warriors, they're the Warriors. And I don't think it's you don't move if you're the Rockets. If it's me, you don't move. We're good here. We'll stay here. Now, if we feel like, or no, not feel like, if we see Reed take another step, then we're gonna talk about, all right, Fred VanVleet, what are we gonna do with you? Because I think then you look at getting a backup point guard for Reed, and now we can really open up the championship window and be ready to like do what we have to do.
I actually have like. I would say I have a point more about James Harden than I do about the Rockets, but I actually really do agree with that about how, to me, Reed Shepherd tells you, like the way he's been playing tells you no, like do not make that move. Right. And as you said, there is another step, maybe even 2 or 3 different steps that Reed Shepherd could take over the next couple of years that truly solidifies him as the guy at the point guard position. But even as it stands right now, I wouldn't make the James Harden move. And I think this is actually something I was going to mention a little bit earlier in the stream, but it actually fits in right now. And to me, James Harden is complete fool's gold. And I think this is an era, this more of a question, I suppose, as well. As I feel like this is an era of NBA basketball where there are so many washed, big name players that tend to be overvalued based on what they used to be compared to other eras.
It's an extended period of guys who have done it. Like, I get what you mean. It's just like the notoriety of the players now has extended longer than previous players. And sure, maybe that's like a longevity thing, but also like there are some guys who it's like they just simply aren't the same as what they used to be.
I think a lot of Oh, sorry. Just real quick. I think it's a case of like a lot of these guys, they're in a place of they're getting more deals off of the respect of what they did. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
No, I
and
agree.
one example, I know he's not here to defend himself, but I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again. With Russell Westbrook getting signed to Sacramento, he was probably not going to get signed by any other team that was in a firm situation in the league, and they gave him a chance because they're like, why not?
But I
Right.
mean, I think Justin is more so referring to like the mid to high level contracts where we're seeing guys like Paul George in the 76ers, and it's like, do y'all really need him?
Yeah,
Right.
I
And
guess.
I
And
think, I
Clay,
mean, we joke about the Clippers being a retirement home, but they're a legit retirement home. I mean, they're completely banking on the names winning the games rather than the actual current players winning the games. I mean, they're like, okay, let's get rid of Norman Powell, who's shown can be a 20-point per game scorer for us, has been loyal to us. I mean, the Clippers by no means have ever been a team that's like, okay, they're going to be loyal back to me as a player. I mean, we've seen that throughout their history, and
Yeah.
especially this year with Chris Paul. They did it to Blake Griffin as well. And when you look at the loyal guys for the Clippers that have been loyal, that have been productive, what do? They move them. Obviously, CP3 is a little bit different this year. He wasn't extremely productive, but history-wise. Anyways, you say, okay, Norman Powell, you can go be a borderline all-star player over there in Miami. He'd probably be an all-star. I mean, in my opinion, he's an all-star this year. He could be an all-star over in Miami. We're going to come and get a Bradley Beal who has shown can't be productive on a winning team or a team that is trying to win. And then he breaks his hip, and it's not like he's extremely old or anything, but he's shown that he's past his prime. He's
That
washed
dude's
up the name
body is
value,
58.
right? Exactly.
yeah.
And then
And with what he had in Phoenix, like he had it in Phoenix. It's like that should have been the first sign.
right, and well, then they're like, okay, but before this, we trade for Kawhi Leonard, which makes we signed Kawhi Leonard, makes complete sense at the time, right? But now it's a player that was good, a player that used to play frequently, a player that could have done something for us 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, but don't say was good. Like he's still not good when he plays.
But the point is the best ability is availability. The guy never plays, and on top
right
of
now
this,
he is, and they're still losing every game.
no, I agree. That's where I'm continuing here. I'm gonna be continuing with this.
Yeah.
Then this year, oh, we need a guy that maybe could stretch the floor a little bit. Let's go get Brook Lopez. Like, I mean, dude, come on. Like the jokes write themselves. And then, oh, we already have James Harden, who actually in this tier of players that I'm talking about is probably the best player out of all these guys that are slowly falling off, probably in that wash category. I think James Harden's the best out of that category. Like, in my opinion, I feel like his game is aged the best. Out of any of these players,
all those guys too, like most of them definitely were on the decline. But like you said, getting a guy like Kawhi, at that time he was the best player in the world, and I still think that he's an all-star level player. James Harden, when they got him, maybe even was when he was kind of a step down because they got him from Philly, and that was maybe like his worst stop, at least since like OKC six-man days. So, but I think he's even had some moments above that. Everyone else, like Chris Paul was already on the decline for years, and Bradley Beal was on the decline, and Brook Lopez was on the decline. You know what I mean? And like so many guys, it's like, hey, we're going down. Let's just bring them all together for like one fun run. Like, dude, you can't do that.
No, exactly. It's the thing of, it's like, you know what it reminds me of? It's gonna be like some kid like 10 or 15 years down the line is going to go on Basketball Reference and be like, show me a random player, and they'll be like, oh, he had an all-star appearance. Oh, he had an MVP. Like, I know him. Oh, where did they spend time together? The Clippers. Were they good? Absolutely not. It's because you took all these guys that were previous all-stars, and obviously guys like James Harden, Kawhi, who could play at an all-star level currently, but they're maybe for Kawhi, obviously, is health reasons, for James Harden reasons. He's just a little bit older, but he's still playing well. He's not, MVP James Harden. But you got these other guys as well as Bradley Beal, Brook Lopez, CP3, who had been very good players in the NBA, and you're like, okay, this team must have been good, but it just wasn't. It's not.
Shout out NBA Hoopstyle1 because this is a guy who was an account many years ago, and he used to create all these things talking about like, this is what this team had and stuff, like greatest teams that if they were all in their prime and stuff like that. And he would pull all these ones. Like, see, a team like this, like Yeah, still maybe some of the fit could be a little bit weird, but I mean, obviously, if they were all in their prime, like it would be good. But right now, it's like, like you said, Beal, Chris Paul, Brook Lopez, like these guys either aren't playing or they're just not as good anymore. So it's like, it's bad and injured.
Right. And it's just so weird because then we also mentioned Paul George, but in the previous, let's say generation of washed hoopers, okay, of like the big name guys.
Which generation? Like, give me some names so we know like what timeline.
Like let's say Dirk and Dwayne Wade. Okay.
Okay, so not
So when
really
they're
like a whole generation, but like just
generation,
about
but-
like 5-10 years. Paul Pierce,
right,
stuff
Paul
like that.
Pierce.
Okay.
So right before these guys that we're talking about now started to go on the decline, it just feels like it's such an extended list of guys that are, taking those steps backwards just because of age and are getting big contracts because of who they used to be compared to previous, stops. I mean, think about it. Dwayne Wade went to Chicago. Yeah, he got paid, but he didn't get paid like freaking Paul George money like that he just got, obviously with contracts adjusted. It wasn't like you're giving a guy a max contract that had been washed for a couple years. I mean, Dwayne Wade was still a decent basketball player, and that's the reason he got paid. But he get paid a max contract with Chicago.
I mean, he wanted it with the Heat, and they went with Whiteside instead.
Right, exactly. So, and then I just don't. I don't see how that happens. And obviously with Paul Pierce, he was another guy who, went along, played for a handful of different teams, but it was never like, okay, well he's like, let's give him, 20 million a year or more just because of who he was. And I feel like Russell Westbrook was a guy who now more so is starting to be like, okay, this guy isn't really an NBA caliber player. He's been playing okay for Sacramento, but Sacramento's not a good team. But think about it. Russell Wilson was getting opportunities. He was getting money. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like with Los Angeles, for example, he had the opportunity. With Denver, he got the opportunity to play on a team that was trying to win a championship. So to me, like those, like it's just such an extended list and something that is maybe a minor quirk of the NBA currently that is something that I hope doesn't last, even though respect to a lot of these legends, guys that, done their time in the NBA and done a lot of great things. But I just hope this doesn't last because I think it's a bad trend for the NBA.
I think.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like it's all based on like kind of just like recognition in the name and stuff, and you see it like it's getting like longer and longer and everything. So I don't know.
I think it has more to do with how much they're getting paid because I'm looking at Paul Pierce and KG's contracts because those are two of the main ones that come to mind because they started, going wherever. They weren't getting paid crazy money,
Exactly.
Paul Pierce's last deal was 3 years, $10 million. The deal with Washington, 2 years, $10 million. So it's like, what are we seeing with these guys that like, are they just getting lucky with what age they were at when they got paid to where it's like, okay, by the time you get paid again, we're not sure if you're going to fall off or not, but we'd rather not bank on you falling off because right now you're a 35 point per game kind of guy, like in a guy like, Harden or whatever. Maybe that could really be what it is. They're getting lucky with the age aspect.
Well, you know what it might be too, and you just mentioned the player who I was going to reference with this. And Gelson's, when you said earlier the fool's gold thing with Harden, I thought this is what you were going to refer to. Is I think when there's a player who has maybe done a lot at one point in the league, and things don't end well, maybe with a certain team, teams are still going to knock on their door because part of it is, well, yes, maybe it ended bad there. But even if someone shoots terribly from the field, from three, has a 0-point elimination game, whatever it may be, like they are still given an opportunity because they're thinking maybe it's just run its course, like with the team. Mm-hmm. And it's like they need a change of environment. I think that's what a lot of people thought for years with Harden in different stops. And they thought it with Clay. And they might have thought it with Westbrook, you know what I mean? Like, okay, this guy just needs a change of scenery, and like he could do it with us. Like, it's what maybe they say about like certain different players that I feel
Mhm.
like they're more willing to be like, hey, let's throw him a deal. We'll throw him this amount of money because if he's playing like how he used to, it's a big time win. And if it's not, then it's gonna look a little bit bad. In the case of Paul George, that's one of the more extreme cases probably because the guy got all-star to superstar level money, and the guy's probably not going to make an all-star team again. I mean, he's not bad. Like, he's not a bad supporting player on a team, but he's not number one. He's not number two, and probably not number three on his team anymore. You know what I mean?
And you pay a guy like that, he's not taking rotation player type shots and touches. So it's like,
I think this. I wanted to add this to that point is, when I mentioned earlier was like this is just a bad trend in the NBA, and that's to me I've always disliked like the like mama I can fix him like type of mentality with sports, and then it is every sport, right? I hate that mentality. Like sometimes it does work out, and you do get that. You find out that when you're shifting through the rocks in the backyard that you somehow found a diamond, right? I mean, it happens. Extremely unlikely, but
it don't happen much in basketball. Like
exactly,
football is where it really happens,
right.
I have a story about this after you're done. Go ahead.
I think a great example of this is Norman Powell for the Clippers. I mean, he wasn't a guy that was a bad player by any means, but he's a guy that you weren't expecting to come and play as well as he did for as long for the Clippers. And obviously he doesn't have the name recognition that a lot of these guys have, but it's one of those things where you can find the diamond in the rough here and there, right? But generally, mama can't fix them.
Yep.
Like the new team can't fix these players. It's not, it changes. That's why I also hate when people are like, they need to change the scenery. I would agree that typically, if you're discussing younger players, sometimes it is a change of scenery thing. But usually when this is used in a super serious context, we're talking about a guy that is 32 or 33 and has had multiple All-Star appearances. It's not about needing a change of scenery. It's about he's past his prime. He's aging. He's not playing as well. He can play a different role maybe for your team, but if you're trading for him to be an MVP caliber player like James Harden in his prime, it's not going to happen. And to convince the front office and the people around the front office that it could happen is a disservice to both the franchise and the fans, and is a slap in the face.
So my story here too that goes along with that perfectly, and I agree with everything that you were saying. It's not even with NBA, so for years, middle school, high school, I played with this one guy in basketball. He was a year below me and had big tantrum issues. Like he always just like threw a fit on the court, would get technical fouls, would do hard fouls. When he'd get taken out of games, coaches would yell at him, everything. He'd always talk back. Terrible attitude when things weren't going his way. You know what I mean? And I remember my senior year of high school, which was his junior year. I think like my dad was just randomly talking to one of the coaches. They were talking about some stuff. And then this player got brought up in conversation. And I remember like, my dad just said like, yeah, like in years past, like he's just kind of been a head case at times. And I remember like our assistant coach, he said, yeah, well, we won't have to worry because we'll have it figured out this year. Like he's not going to be doing that this year. And when I tell you that within 3 months, it was a game within the last month of the year, and he had a hard foul that had the kid on the floor crying. Like it was that serious. Fans, players on the other team were like yelling in his face. He was yelling back at them. He got ejected from the game. He got 2 Ts. And as he was walking out, like the coach was just saying like something to him, like, hey, like, like, are you okay? Like, come on. Like the player turned and he said, I'm effing done in the gym. He said, I'm done. Everyone was dead silent. This guy just turned. He said, I'm effing done. And he walked off the court and he quit the team right then and there in the middle of a game.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I've never seen something like that. But that just goes to your point where it's like, oh, I can fix him. I can do this. Like,
yeah, no, you can't.
If it's something that's been over and over and over again, odds are you can't fix them. Unless you got a magic wand or something like that. And that's probably the most extreme instance relative to basketball in some way, because this guy, like, he'd always blow up and throw tantrums. Like I said, I've never seen him do something like that. And I've never seen anyone do something like that. And I probably will never see that again, because that was ridiculous. Like, just seeing that, like, I literally saw a player quit live and on my team. Not a word came from the crowd. It was a packed crowd too. A lot of people there. Not a word when he said, "I'm effing done."
Everybody felt his energy that night. I'm not gonna lie.
It was so awkward, man. And then like the superintendent and the athletic director, and then like even I think a police officer went in like to check on him and stuff like that in the locker room. Like it.
Bro was Hall of Fame crash out.
I was gonna say,
was
bro, you
insane.
just embarrassed yourself in front of everybody. But
Insane. And yeah, man, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say if you guys don't have anything else, I was gonna go ahead and close the stream out. We're at our time.
I
Unless
do
you want to-
have just really one more thing. I know we talked about Clippers, Rockets. One other thing I do want to get to is talking about the Dallas Mavericks. Right now, they're in a situation where I've seen all these AD rumors. You know, Cooper Flag just dropped a 40 ball the other day. He's been looking nice now, getting into his groove. You know, and now obviously Nico Harrison is out the door, but they don't have, you know, Steph's guy Luka no more. So it's looking pretty tough for them. And I know maybe Patrick Dumont and the Mavericks like front office. Do you think they make a move? Not like this week or like tomorrow, maybe by the deadline, maybe by this summer, where they fully invest in Flag and they seems like an AD trade could be likely, but maybe even a Kyrie Irving trade. Not because he's not going to help their team or anything, but it just might not make sense because of where they're at right now.
Before we get into this, I just say I gotta hop out of here. My time is
Okay.
running thin, but Kyrie's
Dang.
a Timberwolf. That's all.
What? Wait, for who? For who? Randall.
I would say probably it'd have to start. I think the money wise, it has to be like Rudy, and then like other stuff. But like obviously stuff that Dallas would value. Like I don't think they.
I
really
honestly
value it,
though,
but, like
I don't know. I honestly wouldn't hate a Kyrie for Randall like swap scenario though. That wouldn't be too bad.
I think you'd have to have a third team in there though to have AD go elsewhere in that case. But I don't mind it.
Kyrie and Ant though.
Randall and Rudy for Kyrie and AD.
You just need defensive backbone around there too, because like when we talked about Ja and Ant before, like you're gonna need that a little bit with Kyrie and Ant as well.
Right. Anyways, I'm gonna hop out of here.
All
right.
brother.
See you later, Joe,
Good stream
Pepper.
with you guys.
Be
You
safe,
guys are a
my guy.
good stream. Steph, what are your thoughts on this Mavericks thing though?
With regard to Anthony Davis, there's been a few destinations that I've seen that I think would work for not only him, but also the Mavericks as it relates to getting a team that builds more around Cooper Flag as opposed to having AD there, which you would inevitably be building around if you kept him because highest paid guy. But I was looking at something like Memphis. Maybe you trade him for Jaren Jackson Jr., try to see what Ja can do with a guy like Anthony Davis, a bit stronger of a defender. Yes, I would say they both have the same kind of injury concerns where, you know, whatever, but Ja also has injury concerns, so there's not much he could say about that there. But I think that could be something that bolsters the Grizzlies a lot because you also have Zach Edey on the back end with him. You got Twin Towers there. You have Ja doing his thing, playmaking, scoring, et cetera, et cetera. It would be great to see Cedric Howard coming to his own with that, and you see that come together. I would like that a lot. That was one of the main like destinations I was looking at when I was looking at Anthony Davis, especially because I was high on Cooper Flag myself. Other than that, maybe the Warriors, but I don't know how much the Warriors have to be able to go get him. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Draymond's contract matches up, but are they willing to trade him? Because to the point we were talking about before with washed up guys staying and things of that nature, there is a respect factor to keeping Draymond and not trading him just for the sake of, you know, us trying to win. Now, if it's me, I'm the GM, pack your bags, Draymond. We're not like if they're saying yeah, we're about to take the deal. Yeah, pack your bags, buddy.
Gonna do another commercial probably that makes fun of him. I feel like he's been doing a lot of those lately. Have you seen
A
the one
lot.
where he did one? It was like a Santa's nice list and stuff, and he's like, "Nothing for you, Draymond. Like, you're on the naughty list." Like, it's just so messed up. But
It's good that he pokes fun at it though. He knows he's the asshole of the NBA.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Sometimes he like tries to deny it, like in his words, but it's like, come on, bro. We all know. Like, we saw you kick Steven Adams in the groin. You know, like,
Come on,
we saw
bro.
you punch Nurkic. We
There's
saw
a
you
guy
do
on the
you
ground.
know,
You stomp him. Like,
yeah, Sabonis. It's crazy to think that the Sabonis stomp might not be one of his top 3 most devious actions.
it's that clip where were they playing the Pistons? I think it was the Pistons, but the clip where he had the ball, but he slips and turns it over, and then he gets up and runs back down and pretty much tackles whoever it is that was driving to the basket. That's one of the most egregious Draymond clips ever because you were not playing basketball for a solid 15 seconds, bro.
Man, we might need to have a stream where we just rank all of his like best, like not best, like craziest to least craziest diabolical moments on the basketball court.
No, that would be insane.
That would be an interesting tier list for sure. I mean, you'll only find it here on KOT. The one thing though I wanted to say about the Mavericks, and then we can close out, is, you know, as much as we give Nico Harrison crap because of the trade that he did to get rid of Luka and everything, I still do like this team. Okay, I'm gonna be real. I don't think that the Mavericks are a bad team by any means. And even like they got it off to a really slow start this year. They've had guys injured. And I said to myself, if they could be around a 500 team, like in the first 25 games or so, because we haven't even really seen like Kyrie yet this season.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we see them around there, like I'm feeling good. Now, of course, AD gets hurt and that puts a damper on things a little bit more. You know, Cooper Flag, of course, a rookie. You're going to have growing pains in the first couple games. Right now, it seems like he's definitely on the upward trajectory and more like the, not to be cliche, but the I understand it now, you know, meme. But you think about it like this. It's like you have Flag and then AD and Kyrie as your cornerstone players. And I still like that they have PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively. And, you know, these are guys that made the finals with them. You know what I mean? I don't like how some of them are a little injury prone, but even other guys who weren't on the finals team, like Caleb Martin and like Najee Marshall and stuff, I think they have depth.
Players.
They do have great players. And I think that, you know, Jason Kidd, like, you know, it's crazy because of the whole situation that happened with the Mavericks. Like, you know, maybe you see a team like this and you'd be like, oh, instantly you're going to go like towards the coach. I don't think he's really done anything wrong. I think that he obviously, like, it was a complete change in culture getting rid of Luka, and maybe it demoralized people last year. Maybe it's even demoralized people still a little bit, but I think eventually they're going to climb out of it. Now, of course, you got to look at, well, AD is 32 and Kyrie is what, like 32 as well. So, and it's like they're not
Kyrie
just
turned 33.
Just turned 33. So, I mean, even older than I thought. So these guys aren't going to be elite, I guess, forever. So you could make a move for that, but I don't think they should, you know, gut the team entirely, because some of the other role players, like I said, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, like all these guys. I mean, even if you count D'Lo, but I think Max Christie's another one. Like when he plays,
I would instead D'Lo, I'll go
Nembhard.
Brandon Williams.
Brandon Williams, another one. Yeah. Like they just have so many young players. Even if Jaden Hardy gets some run, I feel like usually when he gets more of an opportunity, he looks pretty good. They have a ton of guys that are under 30. So you might look to trade Kyrie or you might look to trade AD, but I wouldn't even rush to do it right now if I'm them. I would at least try it again next season. And if, you know, if it's not working out, then it is what it is. I think at this point, though, AD's trade value, like, yeah, it might get worse, like especially if he gets injured again. But I already think it's maybe a little bit lower than what people think. You might call me crazy, but there was a trade offer. It was like AD for us, the Bulls, for like Kobe White. I think Vucevic was in it. I think Isaac Okoro, and 2 first-round picks and another second-round pick. And trust me, I know AD is the best player in that deal.
I don't like it for Chicago though.
I don't like the deal for us either. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. So like that, and I feel like his value is not like now AD a couple years ago, that might even be about what the same value, maybe even a lighter package than what got him to you guys, right?
Yeah.
Because you had to go like Lonzo and BI and stuff and
Yep.
Josh
Josh
Hart,
Hart. Yeah.
you know,
And
so
then a few picks on top of that.
Yep. So I think one of those was no, I don't think it was Thomas Bryant. But anyways,
No, I'm pretty sure one of them was Thomas Bryant, unless that was another trade. But I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. But anyways, like I just think that this is a deep team that they could make a lot of noise. I'm already seeing like when Cooper Flag has a good game, the Dallas are what?
It was worse. It became fucking Dyson Daniels in the 2025. It became Murray.
That's who it was.
Oh my god.
That's just so bad. But that, and it wouldn't even need to be a haul like that, but I think even that's an overpay for AD.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this Mavericks team. I think they have, they're somewhere up there as one of the best like fans in the league. It's like they still support their team that hard, even after everything that happened. Because bro, I've been heartbroken like as a Bulls fan a lot, but I've never had like a stat like I'm not going to say that because that's probably not allowed, but like a pinch that was that severe that did it for us. You know what I mean? Like, the Derrick Rose trade hurt me a lot as a D Rose fan, but I also saw him, have the injuries and stuff. And for all we know, like, especially after how many years played out after with the Bulls, we probably never would have won at that point the way that they were just going with everything with the team.
Yeah.
If he wasn't hurt, then maybe it'd be different. I do think it would be different, but I'm looking at this Mavericks team. They still have a lot of young guys. I'm not making a move this year if I'm them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'd stand tight till at least this time next year. Because to your point, and I said this when the trade occurred, they didn't get super, super bad. A lot of these teams, when we see a trade like that, they're immediately bottom of the bottom. A guy like AD is ready to be bought out, go to another team, whatever the case is. We see it all the time. We saw the Dame trade. We saw the Drew Holiday. We've seen so many trades where it happens. But in this case, of course, they lucked out, got the number 1 overall pick. But Cooper Flag matched with what they already have is beautiful. We mentioned Brandon Williams. We mentioned Ryan Nembhard. But personally, I'm keeping a Kyrie to mentor my younger guards like that. Which guard is going to emerge? Because like you said, Miles Kelly, Ryan Nembhard, Brandon Williams is a little bit older, but I like what he gives as a facilitator. He's a great playmaker. I've seen him get hot here and there. He has to get better as a scorer, but facilitating, great facilitator. When he's on the floor with Clay, he's getting him the ball in his spots in ways that we weren't seeing other point guards do, or, even Cooper do early in the year when he was playing the 1, which led to, Clay's rough start to the year and things of that nature. But I'm with you. You stand pat. You kind of see where these guys look like when they come back from injury as well. What can we do with them all together? Because I like the front court of Gafford, Cooper, Davis, Lively, PJ Washington. That's a great front court rotation. That's heavy depth. And that's something that it's going to be hard to deal with, especially when you got a guy like Kyrie that you got to deal with. Jaden Hardy, who when he plays, like you said, he's a great player, but he's a bucket. Jaden Hardy can really go get you a bucket. He would be the poor man's Kyrie. And I know that sounds like a bad thing, but in a sense, like he has that kind of wiggle like Kyrie. He's able to score like that, things of that nature. The only guys I would really say like are absolute, let's get them off the team, let's move them, is a Dwight Powell.
He might retire. Is that after this year?
Oh, well, then that's perfect. You don't even have to worry about getting somebody in. He should retire. That dude he should have been out of here.
I don't know why he even would. He's got the best job in the world.
Just sit there. He's been collecting money for the past decade. Him and Maxi Kleber are two guys. Don't get me started. But Max Christie developing, able to have the ball in his hands, shoot the ball at will, learn from Clay. you know, they have veterans in position to teach these younger guys that already have a nice trajectory in a league where a lot of us talk about teams that don't have OGs. They don't have these guys showing the younger players what's next, how to move, how to be a pro. This is a team that kind of has that in every position, from D'Lo to Clay to AD to Kyrie. That's four players right there that's a lot of winning. Now, D'Lo, we know what he brings in the playoffs, but 3 of those 4 guys, that's a lot of winning. That's 4, 5, 6 rings right there, just alone. And they could teach these guys how to really get to where they need to get to. And again, a lot of these guys already made it to the finals, so they know what it takes. It's just having to figure out who's going to be our guard of the future and who's going to be the second guy to go to Cooper if AD isn't that guy, if we decide he's not that guy. But you know, the thing with AD, if Coop can keep up what we're seeing, I think it might help AD to not get hurt as much. You know what I'm saying? That might actually see him on the floor more, which will make this team so much better. They're defensively stout. It's ridiculous. Like, I remember watching when we played them first game the Lakers played, where, you know, well, yeah, we played them last year when the trade happened, but this was the first game where, like, teams are kind of set. We got our motion going, whatever. Luka versus AD. And I remember my lady watching, and she was like, don't the Mavericks suck? Why is this game so whatever? I was like, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league. Despite them not being able to score, they can defend their ass off. They do defend their ass off. And that's one of the things that's going to help them in the future, because the offense will come. We're seeing it with the Rockets. We're seeing it with the Pistons. They defend their ass off, and then eventually that offense starts to get going, and you're good to go. And with a guy like Cooper Flag, the sky's the limit, but you hold still, you stand pat. So I'm completely with you on that.
And I mean, Coop's a great defender. He's going to be a great defender in this league, maybe all defensive. And like I was saying, the only reason you would trade AD is if they get a package they cannot pass up. And someone's thrown that for an AD before, you know.
Yeah, that is
whole 77.
but that 77 package is a different kind of package, though. Like,
that's like the only exception, I would say, though. Like,
because I don't know.
You trade him right now.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's nobody else that you would be like. There's no other team that would trade their guy, but also the other teams like a Phoenix or Sacramento or whatever that has Levine, DeRozan, Book, whatever, they would still be like, no, we're good. Well, even though the Kings are bad, they still probably wouldn't be like, let's hedge our bets on, sending a haul for Anthony Davis. So it's just keep him. And he seems to like Dallas, honestly. Just keep the guy. Figure out where y'all could go next year. Let your young guys rock. Get some more, let Jaden Hardy get the ball in his hands a little more. Let, Nembhard run the offense a little bit more. Him and Brandon Williams together. Y'all be able to come back next year and be a very good team. And it is Dallas. They're never a terrible team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nothing like Sacramento, you just said. But we can save that for Friday. You want to take us home here?
Yeah, man. So, shout out. What's up, chat? Mr. 81. Shout out to you. Kazim Kadir.
Kazimir. He's the one that was saying the one thing, like, what's under my hat the one day. You'll never know.
What's up, bro? I hope you guys had a great stream.
We had I think 5 or 6 people in here today too. So I just want to shout out the chat for that.
Shout out chat. Shout out y'all. Next time on Friday when we are here, we're going to need y'all to say something. Speak up a little bit more. But I hope y'all enjoyed the time. If y'all have any trade targets, trade options, whatever you want to talk about, drop them in the comments down below. It has been me, Garrett, and a little bit of Jelson. But we will see you guys next time. It's been KOT, Key of Threes. We'll see you guys on Friday at 7 o'clock. Peace.